Hello, and this is Colin, and we're on to the fourth and final faction of the Cthulhu Wars game, which is one which is quite mysterious. It's Hastur. Now, Hastur only gets passing mention in Lovecraft's own stories. Apparently, the original Hastur was a god from a story by Ambrose Bierce, I believe it was, where Hastur is in this. Well, he's referred to as the god of shepherds in one of these fantasy pieces. But like I say, Hastur isn't talked a lot in Lovecraft, although August Derleth, in his stories, does concentrate more on Hastur. But once again, any sort of real description of the creature is sadly lacking. Now, I was looking at Hastur's faction, and it certainly had an Egyptian theme, and it was sort of yellow. Now, who heard of a Lovecraftian creature whose color scheme is yellow? It's very hard to deal with, because if you're going to paint something yellow and then wash it with black, it's just going to come out as some sort of brown color. So I kind of went with, here we go, this is Hastur. Look at the size of that figure. Look at the size of that figure. It's as big as my fist. And Hastur, well, he's got mummies on his side, so I gave him a sort of a sand-colored scheme. So, deserts, Egypt, deserts. So I went for that. Also, I did not give him a wash to make him shiny, because I thought, deserts aren't all that, it's very dry, so it's not going to be shiny. One of the fun things I did with Hastur, as you can see once again, even though he looks kind of like a creature made out of sand, he still has an interior of mouths with that sort of reddish kind of openings. You see the eyes. It may be difficult to see, but they got this sort of yellowy, milky texture. And once again, this was the fluorescent fabric paint that I was experimenting with, because as soon as you put it on something, it just absorbs right into it. So what you see is actually layer upon layer of yellow fabric paint painted over black, which gave these wonderful milky green eye effects. So, and the base is not bright yellow, but it's sort of a mustard yellow, sort of, sandstone, who knows. Hastur is somewhat connected with another character, so this is like a co-creature, the King in Yellow. Now, the King in Yellow was a series of stories written by, you must forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the author, but supposedly the King in Yellow was a play which caused insanity. It was this play that was banned. It's in this sort of fantasy fictional universe, and was banned from being performed because it caused insanity. And the major character, of course, was the King in Yellow, who is described as having a pallid mask, which is why he's got this sort of white mask, but otherwise he's got that gray body, which, sort of undead, rotting corpse, and he's rising out of a mound of skulls. And if you look down here, for the longest time I couldn't figure out what that was. There's an alligator down there. Once again, the Egyptian theme. But this is quite fun because you have the unwinding of the bandages, and he's got these tentacles in the back. So I'm going to have to see how he plays in the game. And there's not actually a lot of variety as far as creatures go. The major monster is the Abykey, which in Lovecraft is described as not quite an insect and not quite a horse or something like that. And instead of making the Abykey black, I tried to go with a sort of a moth theme. So again, this sort of off-yellow, mothy color. As you can see, the claws, and I think eventually the head, I washed with the yellow fluorescent paint to make them look a little more deep yellow, make them harder, as if this was actually like bony material that came out of the body, the sort of dusty moth-like part. I also gave stripes to the body just for fun. And other than that, here's there's some mummy figures which are mutating. I don't know, there's something about them I'm not quite happy with. I gave the mutating part this wash of purple, which I thought was lurid enough, but I'm just not sure if it's the right color. But I did want something to differentiate between the mummy flesh and the bandages, because it's actually a very complicated mess of bandage and tentacles and whatnot. He's got a lot of these on his side. And last but not least, of course, is the happy cultist. And no doubt the book that is being read is probably The King in Yellow, amongst other things. Anyway, so that's what I've done with the Cthulhu Wars figures. And of course, there's many other factions, if I ever get the money that I hope to get. And like I say, someday I actually intend to play the game. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.